people. So, welcome to Lore Reloaded Geek Breakdown. The time when we just sit here and relax and just have some fun. Just sit here and talk about the cool things we love about everything that's going on, whether it be Star Trek or Orville or whatever. This is the time when I get to hang out with you and you get to hang out with me, and we just all have a lovely time. Don't know how long I'm going to stay on. Really depends on interaction and things like that. A couple of things to come up. Wanted to talk about Star Trek. A couple of things going on with that. I had some people who hated my Dominion-Borg. A couple of people who didn't like the Cardassian stuff, so I thought we could talk about that if you wanted to. And the Orville and the ship times. Got Sam Ravati. Can never say that name. Sam Ravati 3. What's going on? Mason Herman. Hey. Springtime. Yo. Jorge Rodriguez. Hi to all. How are all you people doing? So yeah, so if there's anything you guys want to talk about, just let me know. Today is going to be the last day that I should be having any issues with audio. I'm replacing my Blue Icicle, so hopefully I won't have any issues at all, but if I do, that's going to be fixed up. And I thought I would get into Star Trek right now, and looking at the D7. Trek, yeah, Trek. I'm saying Star Trek right, anti-Trekker. Trevor Ford, yo, what's going on? Theodore in the house. Anti-Trekker actually came out with a video today about an episode of The Cage. I'm sure you guys will just love that, so check that out. But let's go ahead and take a look at the D7, and of course, whatever you guys want to talk about, we'll get into. So the thing about the Geek Breakdown is it's meant to appreciate things as they are and not necessarily get into why it irks us. So the D7, Mr. Bidwell in the house, the D7, this is not. And the Trek Yards did a cool D7 thing I'm going to show. Hopefully they don't mind me doing that, but I'm going to show it later. But what I want to do is I want to take a look at this vessel at the moment, and just assuming that we move it out of our mind, that's D7, what do you guys think about the vessel itself? I don't hate it, but they don't really show us enough about it to really get enthused, I guess. You know, it's a D7 in name only. It's not an actual quote-unquote D7. But, I mean, so when we're taking a look at it, this is a massive vessel. It's very Klingon when it comes to that as a quote-unquote massive vessel. I just wish they had showed us more of it so that we would know what we're kind of looking at. I do agree that it is a slap in the face in that instance. Now, these are, of course, still images. So let's see if I can move it forward. And take a look at it real quick. Here we go. Ba-ba-da. Yeah, so just taking a look, I like how massive it is. It is definitely dark. Erigmar in the house. But let's look at the Klingons in this universe. So Discovery era Klingons. Discovery series Klingons is a better way of saying it. I do think that it appropriately portrays the strength and just the grittiness of the Klingons themselves for what it is. I'm not saying it's great. I'm not saying that we all need to like it or sing Kumbaya. But at least when it comes to the ship in the instance it's in, I don't hate it. But I wanted to show you guys what the Trek Yards did, so let's pull that up. Into hizzy. There we go. All right, hopefully I don't get popped. That would suck if I got popped. All right, so you got the same scene going through, but look at that. Now, this is obviously an unfinished one. They didn't do any of the... They didn't make it look like a completed or finished D7. But Trek Yards guys did this. If they can do this, how much harder would it have been for them just to do something similar? I wouldn't have even mind if they updated it. But I really thought it was cool that the Trek Yards guys did this. It's amazing, no question there. I just wish it was another warrior-class alien. Yeah, I agree. The more I watch, the more I wish it was. Again, I'm not too upset about the Klingons anymore. But I just thought this was a cool scene that they did. Yeah, and if you guys haven't checked Trek Yards out, definitely check them out. But again, just taking a look at it, thought that was cool. From a standpoint of a different alien, I think it projects strength like it's supposed to. Actually, it looks finished. Doesn't look finished from a perspective of the show itself. Samaravati says, don't remember if it was this show, but my theory was that something will happen to this universe that will cause it to become an alternate universe. I'm beginning to believe that too. If they're going to yell prime timeline, prime timeline, prime timeline, then definitively they have to explain this. I like the theory that every time they jump, they're jumping into a different universe. And there's actually been confirmation that they will be doing a Mirror Universe episode. They actually said Mirror Universe episodes. So there's a really good chance that that's going to tie into a lot of it. So, and that would be really interesting. I think that if they did do a Mirror Universe, what'd be funny is if the Mirror Universe was like the TOS universe that we're used to. Now, how cool would that be? That they're the Mirror bad universe. But then there's a whole lot of issues. There's a whole lot more issues to it at that point because they're not the Terran Empire. So when did they become the Terran Empire, right? So it does have to be an alternate universe itself. I honestly, usually with Trek ships, you can tell what stuff is, but it's so updated and so foreign, I honestly don't know what to make of most of it. So the blue here, I would imagine, is like the nacelles, maybe? I think that would be an interesting thing. It could have been a pretty convincing if those were Klingons 100 years after Voyager. But yeah, everyone says, I wish... will Michael have a beard in the Mirror Universe? That'd be awesome. Everybody talks about how this needs to be after Voyager. The ships are not... They're ancient. The way they're built, they're definitely TOS era in their construction. So I don't think it'd be great if it was after Voyager because they don't look like the natural evolution of ships after Voyager, in my opinion. Yeah, that's what Anti-Trekker was saying, that we're going to see Sonequa Martin Green with a goatee. And more F words for this family-friendly... I've been seeing a lot of rumors that Tilly and Michael might be getting together. So, Anti-Trekker is so upset that there's only one openly gay romantic involvement. We might be having two here. So, he needs to shut up about that because they're getting ready to put him in his place. The spore drive will somehow create distortions in the universe, and this experiment will become top secret that no one will speak about. Just like how they didn't speak about the nanites from the Borg after Enterprise, right? Because that's how super, super secret everything was. There we go. Moving on to Mud. So, looking at Mud again, and Anti-Trekker is going to get upset with me here, but let's look at Mud as a character and not necessarily a direct representation of who he's supposed to be. And I got to admit, I really love the actor, so I think that might be kind of what's that might not be. Man, I was reading something. I got taken off. So, taking a look at Mudd, I love the character. I think the character of Harry Mudd, if we're not comparing him to Toss, is excellent. I actually like this character, and I'd be curious to know what Anti-Trekker thinks. I wish I'd asked you that on the show on Sunday, but I think that he's pretty cool. I can't see this guy becoming the flamboyant Mudd that we see when Kirk intercedes or talks to him. I think he's going to be very dark in the coming futures, especially since what the captain did to him. But I like him overall as a character. I think he's charismatic, and I think he portrays a sense of danger very well. Right? Let's just ignore the canon so we can like him more. Exactly. I mean, what exactly about this are we supposed to do? This is about enjoying what we have tonight, sir. Enjoying it. And beyond that, if you're just going to complain about it, what's the point, right? I mean, just take what you can get, because obviously, if they're not going to care about the canon, then why should we enjoy it for what it was? He was not horrible, but to call him Harry Mudd was just another slap at the fans. Yeah, you know, what would be cool, again, if they tie it all in and it ends up being this jumping thing where it changes, if Harry Mudd somehow, if they use technology to have him perceive himself, I would be really interested what this Harry Mudd would think about the actual Harry Mudd. And I got a downvote. Pretty sure that's Anti-Trekker. But I'm not going to worry about it. So let's move away from, again, not my Mudd. I get that. Beyond the not my Mudd, what do you guys think? Do you like that? Do you like him? And while I'm waiting on your answer, David Herman coming up in the house saying, it's obvious Lurka brought back a Klingon spy. I still am against this guy being the albino Klingon. I don't think he is. I think it would really hurt the series for me if he was. Now, he may be a spy, but there's a lot of things they would have to get past for him to be a spy. A lot of things they'd have to go through. Now, could they possibly go through it? Sure, but so they'd have to find a guy that they had captured. That may or may not be that hard. He would obviously be missing in action. They'd have to get a Klingon, change the Klingon, make him look like he's human, find a way to beat the scanners, which they'd never beat the scanners in the original series, which apparently is very important until we get to this point, at which point all of a sudden it's okay for them to have technology to beat the scanners. I just don't know. They're going to have to play it really well, and that's assuming we ever see him again. They may not bring him back. We may not ever see this guy again, which I think would be funny because of how much people are talking about him. I don't know. I personally don't think he's a spy. I just don't. I think it was on the level and the way things worked out. Now, again, I could be wrong, and I'm sure Anti-Trekker is going to enjoy telling me how wrong I was when it's proven that this guy is some kind of elite spy of eliteness. But I don't know. I don't see that happening. I don't see it going there. That's just my personal opinion right now. Y'all make me tired. That's why I stopped sharing what people could see in the chat, good sirs. He was the actor who was going to play him. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Theodore McCarthy, I think the writers and producers don't really care about continuity, and none of this will really get threaded back into the original timeline in a way that makes sense. Then they're liars. They're liars. They're just straight up, without hesitation, liars. Because they said this was prime timeline, it's all going to fit together, everything's going to make sense, and yeah, it would just make absolutely, it would be another slap in the face if Anti-Trekker could get off of his issues with homosexuality. It would be another slap in the face to the fans, and I don't see that happening. Everyone would enjoy the show more if they viewed it as a fan-made show. Anti-Trekker was saying that. I'm going to start banning people, putting that out there if we keep talking about the off-topic. But Anti-Trekker was saying this. Like, the first 2 episodes, and I don't want to talk for you, so Anti-Trekker, if you want to give it in the chat, he liked it if it was fan-made. There is nothing... Okay, right, Ragmar, I agree. There is nothing wrong with a gay spy. I don't have an issue with that, and I think we both know that was not the problem. But anyway, I think that it would be very well done if it was fan-made. I can somewhat agree with that. Actually, it'd be excellent if it was fan-made. Let me ask you guys this, because there's a lot of opinions on it. What do you think about Axanar? Do you think Axanar would have been a lot better with it? And do you think that they sued Axanar because of what they did here? Now, I sincerely, again, as someone who liked Axanar, I think Axanar did some things they probably shouldn't have, and that's why they got sued. I just think that the fact that it was based on the Klingon War, these events, was just the final straw. But I think there was more to it. But do you guys think that Axanar was taking off so that they could give this? And if you saw this and it was fan-made, do you think that it would just be blowing up and people wouldn't have an issue with it? Of course they are liars, which of course actually fits in the Roddenberry's vision. Yeah, so Anti-Trekker has this opinion, and I've been saying him a lot, that if you haven't seen his latest video, it's the Cage episode, the first episode, pilot episode, talking about how Gene Roddenberry really wasn't as progressive as he likes to point out. And he goes through it. He actually breaks it down pretty well. Chris McKay says, "Oh, wow, I caught a stream. Luck Reloaded." Yep. What's going on, Chris McKay? I knew that you hadn't had an episode yet. You hadn't been here for a live stream. So I was like, I'm going to be here for Chris McKay. Raw666 says, "I think Axanar would have been better, but I think the problem was the timing for both sides." Aragmar says they should have produced it instead of this and would have given them a gazillion tons of money. Theodore says, "Stop speaking his name. It just gives him more." But he's a really good friend and best friend. I like him. I like saying his name. But, yeah, that was my first thought. And they have no reason to do it, and I get that. I get that they have no reason. Why would they do it for free? They already have something they're putting together. But I would have loved Axanar as portrayed by Alec Peters. And I think they really had something there in Prelude. And, Alex says that he's still going to do the last 2 episodes. I'm going to take him at his word on that. But what I would love to see is, since he can't do the full movie that he wanted to, I think he should just do another mockumentary. I would love to see another mockumentary. Just do it in the same style, because Prelude was excellent. Prelude, I still like watching Prelude. Today, I've gotten requests to do a lore on Prelude, and I honestly think I'm going to eventually. Luke Jackson says CBS was just jealous and could control it. That's why they filed the lawsuit. If Axanar got sued, I don't see why Orville will not get sued. There's a lot of trick in it. Don't get me wrong. I like the Orville. Nah, Orville is not derivative. It's definitely different in comparison. I mean, you can't sit there and say Axanar was not taking everything from Trek and not trying to build their own product off of that IP. You just can't say that. It's obvious that's what they were doing. So it's not like they didn't have a case there. That said, I really wish that Axanar would have went through. I would have loved to seen it. And I think that they should have partnered up. I think it would have been excellent. Raw666 says, "Do you think it was a mistake? It was Prelude, like if they started after TNG and explored a militarized UFP going back to exploration, or follow Star Trek Online?" I don't. So here's my thing. Here's my honest to God opinion on this. I don't think that the timeline mattered as much when it came to everything else they did. I think the timeline. I think the timeline solidified the fact that they were going to sue, but I think they would have sued regardless. I think that if they would have had, if they'd done a militarized Federation, if they had done a, oh, I don't know, pick your poison. If they had done a Voyager remake, or whatever, I think they would have sued. I don't think that's related. But I think that it was the final straw, and I think that that's why they weren't as willing to negotiate, because of the time. Can't say that for any IPs for everything. Even the original Star Trek was based off of. Yep. Chris McKay says, I agree. The mockumentary is an interesting new media style for Trek. Yeah, that's what I even tweeted them this. I hope they do the mockumentary. I would rather just the mockumentary. I think they can rock it out. I think they can give exactly what the fans wanted and just do the exact same thing they did in the mockumentary. Springtime says, can he do more 9 to 15 p.m. episodes? Don't understand what you're saying there, Springtime. Unless you're asking about Prelude. He can do 2 more episodes, 15 minutes each. Chris McKay says, yeah, I think CBS just didn't want a big budget fan film they got no money from. Yeah, so it's not just that. So here's what they did. I love Prelude. If I met Alec Peters in person, I would shake his hand and say that I thought he made a wonderful product. But he did make a product. He was using the money from that to build a studio. He was selling ships that looked just like Federation ships. He was selling badges. He was selling the IP from his vision, reimagined. And that is, in my opinion, well, it's not just my opinion, it's court case, was illegal. And I honestly, again, I think he just went too far with it. I think that if he had scaled it back, it wouldn't have been as bad. And here's my evidence for that. So, oh man, there was another fan fiction movie that did really well. It was based in the original series. Michael, if you can give me the name, it was... Oh, we even had the guy. We did an interview with him. He can do 2 15-minute episodes, Alec Peters. But there was another fan fiction that was really well received. And he was going to do another film based off of the formation of the Federation, which would have been excellent. And all they did was said, hey, right now we don't think you should do it. And Horizon, Star Trek Horizon, Chris McKay, yeah. And so they said, hey, we don't think you should do it right now, because of the lawsuit and everything. You pull one, you got to pull everybody. So we don't think that you should do it. And that was the end of it. So they actually have a softer hand than it seems. They didn't go after the other fan films. Even those who were making their own, they just said, hey, we think this is probably not the best idea. And it was Star Trek Horizon. Yes, Angry Philip. Theodore McCarthy says, the axing of Axanar and the contract shenanigans around Discovery all makes me think the real issue is IP law, and we need to reform to push Star Trek into the public domain. Yeah, that is a completely different topic about how something can effectively never go into the public domain if it's owned by a corporation. Don't even... But what's interesting, talking about CBS for a minute, Disney, let's see, who is it? Time Warner, the BBC, and I think the AMC, all of those companies have released every time I have pushed back. Every time I pushed back and said, hey, I'm using this under fair use, every one of them. Disney, think about that. Disney has said, you know what, that's fair use. So Disney has let go. But CBS looked at the exact same thing, the exact same product, just using their IP, and literally I have an email saying, we don't feel this falls under fair use. Are you kidding me? Seriously? Like, for real? For real? But, and that's still ongoing, though I think we're coming to a compromise. hopefully coming to a compromise when it comes to that. That can be somewhat frustrating in and of itself. But anyway, yeah, Star Trek Horizon. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. I like it. There's a couple of things. I think that the acting can be a little bit stiff, and all of the shots are very bright. It's like everything. It's like everything is illuminated. And it looks like it all has lights. Like it's like you're in heaven when you're looking at it. Again, like Star Trek Horizon, but that's just my opinion on actually looking at it. But yeah, so we got that. We got Harry Mudd. And I do agree, CBS is killing itself because of pencil seller execs on the top. Here's an interesting thing. I'm still going to do Star Trek. I still enjoy it. But if I also find another lore that people enjoy just as much as they enjoy my Trek stuff, and it's somebody that's easier to work with, all my channel is free advertising for them. Absolutely free advertising. And I can guarantee it's gotten them money. It has gotten them absolutely, without a doubt, money. So I don't understand why they push back on that or why they have any issues with it. Again, it's just free advertising. But what do I know? I only do this for a living, right? Raw 666, or rather, they do not know how to properly use their license to keep their product going. I would say that's appropriate for CBS. Chris McKay, basically Star Trek Enterprise, the movie, without any of the Enterprise cast. And he's talking about Star Trek Horizon, of course. I can kind of see that. And it's crazy to me, all the work and everything that he went through. He actually was almost going to use some of their, not their footage, but he was going to use some of the, like he was going to have Archer, when they sent out and talked to the Enterprise, he was going to have him respond by pulling clips and things, which I thought would have been cool, but he didn't really want to go down that far. Raw 666 says, why do I have a feeling in 5 years Star Trek will be owned by Disney? Because Disney's buying up everything. I don't know if you guys watch... they do raps, versus things. So you had like Hitler versus Darth Vader. Epic rap battles. There we go. Epic rap battles had the original creator of Disney versus the comic book Stan Lee. I think it was Stan Lee. And it was funny because at the end he basically says, I'm not going to be able to give it justice, so you guys should go check it out. But he said, I have corporatized, I have corporatized ingenuity or, thoughts of fantasy. I've corporatized fantasy and look upon my empire, and you see Marvel and you see all the Disney products, and it's just so absolutely true. Theodore McCarthy says, speaking of other lore, I'd love to see some 40K stuff, but Games Workshop is notoriously litigious. I honestly wouldn't be that scared for a couple of reasons. Same reason I'm not really all that scared of CBS. I don't think CBS, it's under fair use. I'm not going to do anything that's not fair use. And because of that, I don't think that CBS would ever get to court. I just don't think so. And I don't think 40K would do the same. I'm really small potatoes. Even with everything on the channel, even if I was like PewDiePie level, I still don't think that it would go that far. It's just bad PR. If you could, once this goes live, after I get off and you see the video, do the request for the 40K on the comments, and I'll put it in the hopper, and I'll try it out. Because I do enjoy doing new lore series, just to see what people enjoy. If you notice, almost every week or every other week, I start a new series. Sometimes it's within Trek, sometimes It's not. And depending on audience response is if I continue. Like my Battlestar Galactica stuff does really well. People like that. Well being relative. It's not my Trek series, but it does really well. So I still do that. Doctor Who, I really enjoy Doctor Who, and a lot of my original audience was Doctor Who. But it's not something that I just absolutely have to have or have to talk about, and it's not as popular. So I still do it, just not as much. So I'm always looking for new series to try out, to test, to see. I love lore of all kinds. I love doing lore. I enjoy 40K, especially 40K, the space adventures. Warhammer is okay, but it's not as fun for me. Though if you're talking about that, I don't mind. You should do a Borg versus Mass Effect. You know, so a lot of people have been asking me to put different genres together, and I don't know if I'm going to do that, and I'll be honest, it's hard to compare technologies from different systems, different universes, and I don't know that I could do it justice. I know like Space Dock does things like that, and I think they do an excellent job. I just don't know if I could do it justice. Anti-Trekker wants me to do 50 Shades book versus films. Okay. I'm not ever going to do 50 Shades, so you don't ever have to worry about that. Springtime, how long for a new official Star Trek series? You know, they're supposed to have The Wrath of Khan coming out, and that's not something I'm all that interested in. I won't be watching it. I think quite a few people would, because they enjoy the original series, but I will not watch the original Wrath of Khan. I like the movie The Wrath of Khan, but it's not my favorite. And it's just, there's nothing there that interests me whatsoever. So if they do a Wrath of Khan, like his entire experiences, I got no interest in that. And I'm not going to do it if I have no interest in it. And I'm not going to talk about it if I have no interest in it. Because people, I really believe people can see fakeness when it comes to it. So there's no reason. I don't get anything out of it on YouTube. I will enjoy it personally. I won't be doing it. Raw666 says, Borg wins due to Mass Effect shields do not block energy-based weapon. Well, there you go. See, I don't even have to do it. Borg versus Mass Effect, Borg wins. When you say Mass Effect, do you mean the Alliance or the Reapers? Well, I think he's asking somebody else. I assume he meant the Alliance. Reapers would be interesting, though. Reapers versus the Borg. Do I play games on console or PC? PC for life. PC Master Race. Yo. Theodore McCarthy wants me to do a Twilight DS9 crossover. How would sparkly vampires impact the Dominion War? Well, so they always tried to hide who they were, right? The Twilight vampires. So, I mean, that would be excellent. They don't have to be around a sun or anything. So, I mean, really, maybe the Twilight vampires are already there. Maybe you don't even have to worry about that. Problem solved, good friend. They're all descendants of Twilight vampires. Yeah, how about a Eugenics Wars TV series? I'll be honest, I would prefer something after DS9 or after Voyager. I grew up on The Next Generation. I grew up on Deep Space Nine. The Next Generation, I was a kid, I was a teenager in Deep Space Nine. Voyager, I was in my 20s. I grew. That's the series that I enjoy. The original series, for the longest time, I called the old series because that's what I thought it was called. I like the old series. It's fine, but really TNG is where I started. So Eugenics Wars has been brought up. It could be interesting. I don't think I would be interested. I'd watch it before I watched Wrath of Khan. I can guarantee that. But yeah, I don't know. Twilight vampires should team up with the Krill. No worry about sparkling. Just need to take up an account with Hevis. Y'all are horrible. You know, the one thing I've realized when I did my Dominion versus the Borg series is that most people think that the Borg are magic and that they can instantly just tack their way out of the tack and can't be hit or done. They're basically gods. They're Deus Ex Machinas. You know, they're basically God in the Bible without the fun stuff. And I'm sorry, that's not how Star Trek works. I think they do have weaknesses. They can be exploited. and that it can be done with brute strength. And so when people are saying, and it's not just Anti-Trek, other people have said they want to do a response to me, and that's fine. The channel's a conversation, so yeah, of course I want people to respond, even if they disagree with me. But all you're going to say is, well, you know, the Borg are gods. I can't touch you if you say that. If you think the Borg are magic and they're gods, I can't touch you if you say that. It's not consistent with canon, especially in First Contact, but you can also see it during the Best of Both Worlds. They're not gods, but if you think they're gods, then I can't touch you. There's nothing I can do with that. So, I mean, you know, do you? And if you do a response, I'll probably respond, but it may just come down to saying, hey, if you think they're magic, then there's not really a lot that I can say to that. Angry Mr. Flibble says CBS and Paramount keep going back to the original series era for pop culture recognition. Well, so here's the thing. Here's the thing. And who did it? Let me look him up real quick. And it will just take me a second. Odd. So there's a reviewer I like to watch. Though recently he's done some things I don't agree with. It's called Quentin Reviews, and he said something that I thought was very acute or very, very distinct. And he said people, when they watch, especially YouTube, a lot of the stuff they come for is the nostalgia. And so the reason they're doing the original series is for the nostalgia, but I think that they've really missed the mark on it, and here's why. And this is why corporations are a little slow on the uptick. You still have people who like the original series who are still here, but we've moved past that generation, and we're now into the next generation, the DS9 generation. That's where the nostalgia is going to come from. That's why people love my Dominion-War series. I don't think the original series is as popular, I think, from a nostalgia standpoint. But that's the reason they're doing it, is because it's nostalgia. Angry Mr. Flibble says, the more you see the Borg, the less interesting they become. Voyager ran them into the ground by turning them into weakly villains. Yes, absolutely. And an interesting thing I like, that SF Debris is just a wonderful reviewer that I enjoy. And what I thought was excellent was, so there was he was doing a review of one of Voyager's episodes, and he was talking about how they were going to go against this tactical cube, and he really breaks it down what a tactical cube is. He really explains how a regular cube, just a regular cube, is there to assimilate, but if the Borg are serious, if they want to fight, they go after the tactical cube. And Voyager just ignores the fact that it's a tactical cube. They're like, oh, let's just get it done. And the tactical cube, again, is supposed to be leagues above a normal cube. Wow, just wow, so we should ignore TOS because people who like TOS are old. Just wow. This would be the definition of a straw man fallacy. At no point did I say that. What I am saying is that the generations that are now here are people who watch the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine. The original series, while still popular, is not as popular as now as TNG, DS9, and Voyager because we've moved on from the generations that watched the original series. That's just the way human life works. Again, most people, the reason why you're going to see the Dominion and all you gotta do is look at my channel for proof of this. Dominion-War busts it out when it comes to the people that like, enjoy, and talk about it. Before the Federation is popular, but it doesn't match what the Dominion-War is, and that's not bad. It's just life. It's just that's just the way it moves on. Most of us have nostalgia for the TNG era, but the TNG era fell into pop culture the same way the original series did. Literally everyone knows who Kirk and Spock. I don't think that's bad. I think things need to be in pop culture. I enjoy it. I like that Trek is in pop culture. So you have just moved beyond the old people. No, people who watch YouTube, people who consumers is just the way it is. I'm sorry that upsets you, but that's just the way it is. More generations know the Next Generation, DS9 and Voyager, and like the Next Generation, DS9 and Voyager than the original series. And that's with everything. So JJ Verse, in about 20 years, I would say there's going to be more people liking JJ Verse because JJ Verse was a part of their childhood. There's going to be more people that liking The Last Jedi, all of the new Star Wars. Even now, there are people who love the prequels because as kids, they grew up with the prequels. The prequels are becoming more popular than the original Star Wars series. And I like the original Star Wars series, but I think that people are going to be more willing to look at the prequels. I mean, that's just life. I don't know why people get upset about that, but it is what it is. So, moving on and looking at other things. So there was a lot of pushback. A lot of people think that the Cardassians were just this weak power. And if you guys want to talk about the Jar Jar verse won't be loved by anyone, that's funny. No, I'll get back to that, the Cardassians in a second. The thing is, it will, watch, in about 25 years, people are going to talk about how JJ Verse is where it's at and how the DS9, Voyager, and the Next Generation are just old. You know? So, except for Samaravati, who is going to always be a huge The Original Series and the Next Generation fan. Yeah. Ken Jett says, I grew up with the original series, but I have been a big fan of all till Discovery. The original series was a solid... Well, interestingly enough, I think the original series... and Anti-Trekker, correct me on this, but the original series, when it first came out, was one of those that when it was out, it wasn't as popular... But it moved into the culture. It became like a cult classic that people enjoyed. And just keep me honest on that. But that is my understanding of it. Cardassian jokes. I don't have any Cardassian jokes. What specific Cardassian jokes would you like me to tell? I mean, I could look up some Cardassian jokes, but I'm not completely sure that I would be able to effectively give you Cardassian jokes. No, I don't even know any Cardassian jokes. I don't know any jokes that would be appropriate for live streaming on this specific channel, unfortunately. So, but yeah, I would love to see something past Voyager. A lot of people would love to see stuff past Voyager, but I think they're stuck on the original series for now. And hopefully I enjoy the original series stuff, but I would love to see stuff past Voyager as well. What is your opinion on Star Trek Enterprise? Star Trek, not Trek. Star Trek Enterprise. When it came out, I didn't like it. And like most series for Star Trek, I think the first couple of seasons were pitiful. I think they started coming around on the Xindi plot, and I really liked most of the ending, and I loved In a Mirror Darkly. I thought that was just absolutely excellent. The thing about the Trek series that's interesting to me is that they always, the first couple of seasons always seem to not do well. I mean, at least The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, when they're getting their footing, and that's something I think we've lost with Star Trek Discovery too. Some people have brought that up, that it takes a season or two before the series generally get good. The original series was a ratings fail, but the way the ratings were done then did not separate for demographics. If they knew how much they dominated the younger audience, it would have stayed on air. Okay. See, I didn't know that. That's one of the reasons that I'm glad Anti-Trigger is my best friend, because he gives me all of these pieces of information that I desperately need to continue to pass it on to the masses. I think the reason to not go past Voy is simple. The tech is too advanced by the end of Voyager. The most advanced the ships, it becomes just a techno-bubble fest. Okay. I don't necessarily disagree. I also think that in my series, as you can tell, after the Dominion War, I don't think there's a lot of great stories that you can tell without it being contrived, if I'm being honest. I mean, I would love to see it, but I honestly think, I sincerely believe this, and I have yet to have someone give me a convincing argument to not convince me of this, but the way that Deep Space Nine ended, for all intents and purposes, the only major real powers was, in my opinion, was the Federation and the Romulans up until Nemesis, up until the JJ verse, where they blow up the planet, and then the Romulans have their own troubles to worry with, and then all you have left is the Federation. We know the Klingons join because of Enterprise. The Cardassians, I think, won't have any choice but to become a part of the Federation, and then that just leaves the Federation and the Romulans, and I don't know that there's a good story there, and I do think ultimately the Romulans would join into the Federation, simply because they ultimately wouldn't have any choice. They're surrounded. That's my opinion. So I don't know that you have a lot of good stories to tell. And then you have Voyager, who comes back with this technology that apparently is just, anytime you go up against a Borg, it's basically an end game for the Borg. So now you have Borg technology of the ages, which can be used against other empires. So I would actually agree. I think there's too much tech there. I would love to see a series. I just don't know if they could do it well. I think the story has naturally come to an end. It'd have been great to see Cisco. You know what I wish they had done? And people disagree with me on this. Deep Space Nine movie. Instead of all these Next Generation movies, do a Deep Space Nine, a Dominion War movie. Even if you didn't want to do Deep Space Nine, maybe just a Dominion War movie. Obviously, it ends in a certain way, so it'd have to be a mission that stays in continuity, but that would be kind of fun, too. What happened to the Breen? The Breen, I actually have a video on that if you haven't seen, where we talk about the Breen. The Breen go back to their space and stay there. So what I mean by that is there are other empires, obviously. You have the Zenkithi, you have the Breen, you have the Tholians. But major empires, the Romulans, the Federation, the Klingons, all of that's taken care of. So you have these minor empires, but unless you're going to have the minor empires come together, maybe the Romulans and the minor empires come together to fight the Federation, but how's that war is going to start? Yeah, the problem with Discovery is it appears to be about Section 31. Personally, I don't care about a rogue outlaw element within the Federation. Personally, I don't care about a rogue... I'm coming around that I don't think there is, I don't think they're Section 31. I kind of want them to be. I think that'd be fun, but I don't think they're Section 31 now. You could do a post-Voyager show in which the Federation is expanding and a relay satellite goes out, so they send their new ship, say the Shenzhou, out to investigate. They find monster aliens who then start a war. You know, that'd be a good plot idea. You should send that to CBS. I think they'd appreciate that. What's your main day job? I mean, this gig isn't really profitable, so how are you funding this? There are ways to make it fundable and self-sufficient, so I think you'd be surprised, though I will have to start more relying on sponsors and things. I'm lucky enough that this is what I can do for a living. I would say that I wouldn't be able to... If I didn't have other means that would allow me to do this for a living, I would definitely have to have another job. But I do think that you can do this for a living and it be profitable. But to answer your question vaguely, I am lucky enough at the current time to do this without the money having to support everything. Abhat270, I have not. I'll check it out. I'm new subscriber. Abhat in the house, new subscriber. What's going on, sir? Yeah, check out the complete Dominion-Borg series if you haven't. You may or may not agree with where I come to, so feel free to comment and let me know if you think it's stupid. A lot of people hate my recently Cardassian video because I think the Cardassians were a lot more powerful than they do. So I love it when people disagree, like Anti-Trekker, who thinks I think he's old and hate him apparently, which I don't, and I was just giving my opinion on how nostalgia works, but me and him disagree all the time, and he's my best friend, and I don't mind disagreeing with people. Ian Mays says a post-Voyager series could talk about how the Romulans deal with all their devastation. You can also talk about how the Dominion, Ferengi, Klingons, etc. change over time. Okay, everybody stop. Everybody shh, get quiet. Theodore McCarthy is my first, live chat, super chat person. So first we're going to hit the print screen, and I'm gonna print screen this off, and I'm gonna put it in a poster form, and that's gonna look nice for me. Now for the question, Theodore comes up and he says, have you heard of the Typhoon Pact? I have, in fact, multiple times heard of the Typhoon Pact. I have actually began that series, have not finished it. I think it's an interesting take. All of the research I've done into the Typhoon Pact tells me that it is not accepted as canon in any way. But I have heard of the Typhoon Pact, and it seems like a really interesting group of series of books. And I already have them and am actually reading through them. But thank you, Theodore McCarthy. I'll probably do a dance and put it up for you, sir. Or madam, depending if you're like Michael and you're female. But yes, thank you. Angry Mr. Flibble says the Milky Way is too well established. A post-Voyager series should go intergalactic like Stargate universes only. You know, here we go. Here we go. A mirror universe video. Mirror universe. So all of it is just done from the mirror universe perspective. And here's where everybody wins. The Typhoon Pact is a series that explains the different empires and things like that. It's an interesting book series. You should check it out. So they do the original series. So we still get the original series, but we start with the Terran Empire before Spock talks to Kirk, and so it takes like the Mirror Darkly. Maybe immediately after the Mirror Darkly, they go from there. That could be really interesting, really intriguing, in my opinion. I think that'd be a great way to do it, honestly. But yeah, take a look at the Typhoon Pact if you haven't. It's an excellent, there's a lot of good reviews. It seems very interesting. I like what I've read up to right now. So definitely check it out. The Cardassians were clearly a regional power. They were a clear threat to their neighbors, even the Federation. Thank you. I do think that they were building up. If you watch Deep Space Nine, Aragmar, I will after I publish my own. Aragmar, you send me your book, and I will be glad to read it and even maybe do lore on it. But so I really think when you watch Deep Space Nine, now the problem with Star Trek is that a lot of it is that it moves at the speed of plot. And so sometimes Warp 9 can get you there faster than Warp 9 does. Sometimes a ship is made out of toilet paper, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes a bird of war, an ancient bird of war from the original series era, can beat a Galaxy-class starship just with its weapons, without shields, which still makes no sense. But... and I forgot where I was going with that. I do think... what was I saying? Man, that is horrific. And I do this for a living. I do think that when you watch Deep Space Nine, you see the threat that the Cardassians are. You see the Defiant, the ship made for war. it took quite a few of them. It took Keldons, and it took quite a few of them. But they were going to just whoop the Defiant up one side and down the other. So you can... they were a threat, and they could have become not just a regional power, but I think they could have moved into the quadrant. So I do think that they were becoming a better power. I think the founders saw that, and that's why they moved forward faster. Did I say bird of war? I meant bird of prey. Yeah, bird of prey. You were right. I was wrong. I have gotten names wrong before. I never claim not to. Maybe it's a reference. No, it was a bird of prey. It was a bird of prey that beat the living hell out of the Galaxy-class starship, even though it had no real reason to be able to do that. And it's interesting because I am doing the one of the battles on Friday. And I was talking to Anti-Trekker about this, and you notice that the ship there was just pounding on the Enterprise, but it wasn't doing kill shots or anything. And then when they finally found it, it didn't take much to destroy it, because it's honestly not a fair fight. The Galaxy-class ship should have been able to turn around and just absolutely pummel that without shields. They should have still been able to. I'm not saying it wouldn't have hurt. I'm not saying people wouldn't have died. But I am saying that they should have been able to take a few hits, turned around, and just beat the living hell out of that ship. There's no reason that that ship shouldn't have been destroyed. What if after Voyager they figure out how to freely move between Prime and Mirror Universe and a war started? So we're going Star Trek Online is what I'm hearing. That'd be fun. I think a war between the Mirror Universe, Terran Empire, or maybe not even the Terran Empire, but the Alliance, and the Federation. You should do videos about different ships. I am going to be doing it in the future, probably towards the end of the year. I'm thinking about doing it as like a New Year's thing. Typhon, not typhoon. Typhon, that's right. I have never claimed to be able to say words appropriately. That's just a part of the package when it comes to the channel. I give it free. I give it to you as a free thing to be given. The founders seemed really focused on Odo specifically, and sometimes it seemed to me that they were more focused on having him rejoin the Great Link than on conquering the Alpha. They actually say that in Deep Space Nine. I think the female founder, I think she was talking to Weyoun, and she says that he would be worth the entire Alpha Quadrant. That returning him there, they would lose the war willingly if he would come back. So that's actually already addressed. Even without shields, the Enterprise D should have curb stomped the Bird of Prey. They should have been up against a Vorcha class. There was a reason they tapped into Geordi's visor and got the shield frequency. I'm sorry. Look up the Galaxy class and look up the Bird of Prey. This Bird of Prey, again, is ancient. It's from the original series old. They should have been able to turn around and just walloped on it. In fact, if the Bird of Prey had decloaked and said, hey, we want to fight, the Enterprise could have turned off shields just to be sporting and would have still won. They could have took their time. They could have went and got tea, could have got some Earl Grey tea, went to lunch, talked about the weather, came back while the Bird of Prey was still firing on them, and then returned fire, and within a couple of seconds destroyed them. Absolutely no contest. It would be like... I don't know. It would be like an aircraft carrier and a tugboat with like a rocket launcher. It's not a rocket launcher would hurt, but it's not going to kill it. It's just not. Again, the shields don't make that much of a difference. or shouldn't make that much of a difference against such an old ship. I think a Vorcha class would have been really interesting, but then they couldn't have reused it. The reason why it was a bird of prey is because they reused footage, and it's a lot easier to reuse footage than it is to actually, put the animation for a Vorcha class. That would be the reason why it ended up the way that it did in that instance. I will say we've seen the D take some pretty big D12, I'm assuming what I said, take some pretty big hits and still keep fighting. Depends on where you're watching, because again, when you had Kirk, and I think that was a Constitution class, but it may not have been, and I know Anti-Trekker's going to get very upset if it wasn't, and the Excelsior class, and they annihilated it. It didn't take much to take it out. But that's none of my business. None of my business at all. Money, my man, money. More like a carrier versus a torpedo boat. Hence the sinking. Now, the Galaxy class should have been able to take the hits that it did. And they shouldn't have ran. That was just absolutely horrific. We're getting shot at by an inferior ship. What do? Let's run. What if Star Trek moved beyond our galaxy? That would be interesting, I think. I don't know how they'd do that, but that'd be interesting. All right, guys. So that is going to, I think, into the Star Wars galaxy. Well, then we'd have a lot of people mad when they tried to put those fights together. Did we already talk about Harry Mudd? Yeah, we haven't talked about Harry Mudd at all, but we're getting towards the end of the show. Enterprise class. Okay. Which is the Constitution refit. Yeah. See, I knew I was going to get it wrong. Not necessarily. A few well-placed hit first salvo. The Galaxy class has no armor on it. For its class, it does well with shields. Its shields can take a beating. Its shields are designed. But the thing beyond that is basically a walking mall with no armor to it, and it was a frontline ship for a very long time. Compare the Galaxy class to the Sovereign class, and you'll see where it should have been. AJ Zulu, too much fanfic? Knowing the plethora of fan films for Star Trek, how soon would you bet of one in the Orville universe? And on that, if there was an Orville spinoff, how would they... You guys may disagree with me. I don't think they're going to have fanfics for Orville simply because of what Orville is. Orville's a dramedy. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's a dramedy. It's not like a space opera. It's not something that I think is trying to go out and expand. So right now, I don't know that we'd ever see a fanfic because there's just I don't know. I don't see that. You guys can disagree with me on that though. They could go beyond the galaxy by using a spore-based warp drive. That is true. They could do that. The NX-01 didn't have shields and took more damage than the Enterprise D. That is true. It did. And apparently, you were able to polarize your hull, which you polarize the deck and the plating, and then when that breaks, you can just repolarize it because that's how metal works. It just fixes itself. Back to work, guys. These books can't write them. Erigmar, enjoy doing it. I hope I have inspired you in some way. Abhat270 says, I never understood the reason the Galaxy class was created as a family ship and then was put on the front lines. Because the thought is that the Enterprise... sorry, my cat jumped on something. The thought is that they're not a military. They're explorers. It's a long-range science ship. They're explorers. They're going out there and exploring, and you don't have to worry about having a military. Let's put families on almost everything. I don't even know during the Next Generation era, before the Defiant and the Akira class, did they even have ships that they didn't take families on? So, and that's my point. The Next Generation is bipolar at best, because they give you reason to believe that that the Federation, Starfleet, isn't a military, and I think that was Gene Roddenberry trying to rein in the writers who were trying to make it better than what it was. And then you'd have episodes where they quite clearly were a military. Chris McKay says, have a great evening, sir, and it was a great stream. Yeah, we're about to end now anyway. And I'll probably get some angry emails because everyone gets a ribbon for showing up now. I don't know what that means. But yeah, everyone does get a ribbon for showing up. And it's more resources for the Borg when they assimilate you, and then you show up in Voyager, apparently, because that's how that works. Alright, guys, I'm going to end it here. I got to make another video tomorrow. Tomorrow is, what is it? Before the Federation, Vulcans Part 2, so stay tuned for that. And, of course, if you like what you see, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Live long and prosper, as they would say. And guys, I'm going to see you on the next. Oh, before that, AJ Zulu. That's fine. I mean, you know, first off, I just like that you guys like, and if you watch these, so if you really want to help me out and you can't or don't want to donate, you don't want to become a Patreon, watch my live streams, because that's where I definitely get the ad revenue, and just enjoy the show. I'm doing this for your entertainment. If you don't want to pay or you can't, hey, I'm still doing it for your entertainment. But again, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Guys, I'm going to see you on the next Lore Reloaded.